Well, Hailey, it's time.
It's the moment we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, it's time to talk about Benjamin Moore's Color of the Year for 2023.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of you are aware of it, if you care. If you care, you're already aware, right? So it came out on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. It's called Raspberry Blush. If you don't care, we're going to tell you why you need to. I mean, this is life-changing stuff that we've got. This is going to alter your perception of reality by the time we've finished. 10 minutes, you're going to look at the world entirely different because of Benjamin Moore's Color of the Year for 2023. Hailey, why don't you tell them exactly how all that's going to happen?
Well,
it's you now.
Pushing us outside of our comfort zones. You know?
Yeah, I know.
Important thing.
I
do believe that.
Okay.
That it's an important thing to be pushed outside of your comfort zone.
Right.
We talked about it at the design event. You know, if you stay exactly where you know already, you're never growing or changing or learning, and that's not good.
Yep.
So potentially this is life-changing.
Right. So everybody who's paying really close attention realizes how Hailey feels about the Color of the Year. It's not her favorite. Let's describe the color. And then we'll talk about the Color Trends palette, because when Benjamin Moore releases a Color of the Year, they always follow it up with a palette of supporting cast members, basically.
Yes.
Let's think about it as that. And this play that we're looking at is bizarre. You know, these cast members are kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But Raspberry Blush, let's talk about that briefly and work our way through.
It's like a saturated coral color, so it's like a pink orange.
Yeah.
But really, it's a lot of color.
A lot of color, raspberry blush, and then the rest of the colors, there's a cinnamon color, which is kind of a terracotta-y, like a little dark terracotta.
That makes sense. I feel like that's kind of where trends are moving. There's also another brown that I'm not going to say the name of.
Because you can't.
It's kind of a purple. You know, it's brown purple.
I think that's funny. That's a word. I don't know if have we termed that, or is that word out there?
It's new now.
It's new now. Yeah, it's a purpley brown. So it's a burple. And really, it sums up exactly what you would picture when you say the word purple. Savannah green is a yellowy green.
It's like one of those colors that would give my mom a migraine instantly.
Okay, so yeah, we're really flying here. How about Starry Night Blue? That sounds wonderful.
Sounds great.
But when you look at it,
it's very saturated again. None of these colors have a lot of black or white in them to kind of take the edge off. You know, normally I gravitate towards colors that are a little bit toned down. They're a little muted. My eyes can rest on them for a long period of time without feeling overwhelmed. They scale really easily that way, but with these...
Well, they are sold with a blindfold. So
they're a little overwhelming, I imagine.
Well, like I said, you've got a little blindfold. It comes with each purchase, and you look at them for a minute and cover it. I know I'm joking. I'm being extreme in my opinions, because I do like this palette to some extent. There's value to be had from it. Some of the colors are easier on the eyes than others. North Sea green is kind of a teal color. It's a very saturated teal, but it's a nice teal.
Yes.
I like that one a lot. New Age is kind of a purpley gray.
The lavender color. That one's
Is that a bray?
A bray?
Like a donkey? No, that's just a purpley gray. And that one's pretty decent. What's the other one that you like?
Conch shell.
Yeah, it looks like skin color. Hailey said she'd paint this in a bathroom, and I
have painted this in a bathroom. Not this exact pink, but a very similar one, and it's a nice look. It's like a nice light blush.
Yeah, it's so skin color for me. I can't imagine. I think I'd just disappear as I'm getting ready for my shower.
Not skin colored.
There I am. Where'd I go? Where'd I go? Oh yeah, there I am. So anyway, there's the color palette, and as you've gathered, it's not our favorite thing right now.
But this is the thing.
Okay, here's one of the things. This is Hailey's thing.
Is that, again, they're pushing people outside their comfort zones. And I think that was done intentionally to some degree. I think they're aware that these colors are not what everyone was expecting. Because honestly, in a lot of past years, most paint companies come out with a fairly similar palette of colors. It's like their version of the color trends, but they're not that different from each other. Last year, I think even the names were similar.
Right.
So they're definitely moving away from everyone else in this. They're outside of the pack.
Well, and I think part of what we need to take into consideration is that in the Midwest where we're located, we're slow adopters. We don't jump into new things. You know, a lot of the feedback that I've been hearing and reading about this color release is coming from the West Coast and the East Coast, and people are excited.
Especially
designers,
the West Coast.
Yeah.
People already lean more into vivid, saturated colors.
Right, they do. But the argument is they're so happy to have color again in the palette. They've been very sick of the neutrals and the muted colors that we tend to gravitate towards. So I think, you know, in about 2 or 3 years, we'll start to like these.
10.
Yeah. and we'll catch up. But then by then things will have moved on.
Yeah.
So to be fair, you know, this isn't just for our area. They're trying to predict and come up with color trends for
That's true.
everybody. And we just happen to be a little slower. We're a little more conservative in how we approach color. The things I like about it, you know, like Hailey said, they're pushing us outside of our bounds.
Yes.
And that's interesting. I think the thing that I got most out of this as I'm looking through it, and I've got to pull up my notes here because I've made some very brilliant points. You know, I look back on the literature and the language that they use in the literature, and you know how I feel about it. Some of the, you know, the flowery language that I just think says, it sounds really nice, but is it saying anything?
Yeah.
So here's what they've got. They're describing the color, and this is quoted right from their literature. It's inspired by an artist's desire to communicate through color, shape, and sound. Color Trends 2023 was built to envelop you, us, all of us, in vivacious color. Right. Okay.
Charismatic.
Right. Yeah. To commemorate this year's selection, Benjamin Moore partnered with the electro-funk duo Chromeo. We're not even going to talk about this, but this electro-funk Chromeo to underscore the upbeat and optimistic tone of the palette. Basically, this band created a song called Raspberry Blush.
For Benjamin Moore.
For this
color.
You just have to check that out. Here's the quote that I liked. They did that to demonstrate and underscore the upbeat and optimistic tone of the palette and the dynamic role color plays in self-expression. Okay? That little line, the dynamic role that color plays in self-expression, is the line I'm taking from this and I'm running with. That's the thing that I like about it, because I think so often in decorating, I don't know that we decorate for self-expression.
Yeah.
We're decorating, we're decorating basically for the voices in our head, for the critics in our head, for the people that we know, our family members who will come through and judge what we've put on the walls, and judge in one way or another, you know. But often, everybody I know talks about it, how they put their colors together, they decorate for their friends or whatever. They want people to come through and say that it looks great.
Just for the world at large. Like, I don't even know if it's like we realize that we're doing it for other people all the time, but we have this idea that there is a world out there that is doing one thing and we should follow that thing.
Right. And so we want to create something that's beautiful and cohesive, and we want other people to approve of it to some extent, one way or another. And that's not bad. I'm not advocating that we create something hideous just for the sake of it. But what I'm thinking is that the self-expression part should be bumped up to the front of the line.
Yeah, I would.
And the secondary benefit or outflow is going to be something that looks great. And I think that's going to happen. But if we focus first on expressing who we are, and when you think about it, all the marketing, blah, blah, blah aside, I don't know much that does more to express self-expression or to infuse a home with self-expression than the color on the walls.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you need to go to some of these crazy colors that are in this palette, but I do think this palette challenges us and says, hey, step outside, look at something different, find where you fit. And if you fit with all the neutrals or that farmhouse chic or shabby chic or the modern farmhouse look or whatever, fine, run with it. Make that your palette. But if it's something different, just start decorating for you with the focus on self-expression. That's what I'm taking out of this as the most valuable thing that this palette's expressing.
Even designers have a tendency to fall into patterns of colors that they know will work. They know this will look good and acceptable. And I recently talked to a designer that had a client that was just really, really into this super bright yellow, like school bus yellow. They wanted it on their cabinets. and she was really advocating against it. They did it. It looks great. So it's hard to imagine.
I think you need to try, you need to explore, and this challenges you to do that. Now, we've got to wrap this show up.
Yeah.
We're going to keep talking, and we're going to air that on the YouTube version when the show comes out.
Yes.
But right now, we've got to wrap it up. If you want to catch this one again, you can find it online at repcolite.com. Whatever you do today, make sure paint's a part of it. The Repcolite and Port City paint stores are open until 3, waiting to help. I'm Dan Hansen.
I'm Hailey Johnson. Thanks for listening.
All right. Yeah, we have about 11 minutes. I'd like to continue that thought.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Hailey, you were just talking. We had to wrap up the regular on-air show.
Yes.
Because we're out of time. But with YouTube, we can just go and go and go.
All the time we want.
Actually, I have 11 more minutes on the chip. That's all we've got.
Great.
But we're going to have to get our point across then. But you ended, and I had to speed you along. You were talking about how a designer, go through that really quickly, set it up one more time.
Real quick, I had been talking to a designer recently who had a client that really was just set on having this really saturated bright yellow in their kitchen, specifically on the cabinets. It was like a school bus kind of yellow. Imagine that.
Sounds terrible.
Right. It sounds terrible.
And the designer thought, forget it.
Trying to convince them otherwise, that that's too much. It's really loud. You're not going to like it. Trust me, let's go with something more traditional, honestly. And they ended up going with it because this client wouldn't give up the color. And the designer was surprised and showing me pictures because it actually turned out really cool. And I don't think that anyone would have gone there without this person just deciding, this is what I want. And I know that it's weird, but I also know it's going to work.
Well, right. And the thing is, you don't have to know that it's going to work. This is paint.
Right.
There are so many things in life that you don't have this freedom with. And yes, it's expensive, and yes, it's work. I'm not underplaying that. I don't like to repaint anything either. All of that I get.
But
this is not a $10,000 expense that, whoa, my goodness, what did I think? It is something that can be redone.
In terms of redecorating, it's the easiest thing to
Right.
redo.
And so we don't get this opportunity to really stretch outside our bounds all the time in real life. We can say that and talk about that, and it sounds really good and it looks good on the written page, in the written word. But in reality, it's really hard to jump outside of your bounds.
Yeah.
In this one instance, it really is something that you can accomplish. And it's one of those few places in life that you can push the boundaries and try something. And if you don't do that, and you always stick with what you know. We talked about this with our design event months ago, but it's one of the things that I really took out of that I'm really trying to apply in multiple areas of my life. But creativity doesn't live in the spot that we know back and forth, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to break out of that spot. But when we work in that area, things that I know, things that I'm comfortable with, whatever, we end up just regurgitating, maybe in slightly different ways. Right.
We can rearrange the parts a little bit, but that's probably as far as we're going to go.
And there is some creativity in that.
Sure.
But you're not really opening the box.
Right.
Until you step into the area where you are uncomfortable, where you're not sure where it's going to go.
Exactly.
And you don't have to know that you're going to land on your feet. It's nice to know that. But this color palette is saying, step outside and give it a try. See what's out there. And as we've talked about with all of these color palettes, is don't take this as
this is your
right.
color.
This particular reddish orange, that raspberry blush color.
Yeah.
We're not saying that's the one.
Well,
but look at what
that like a coral color and you want to go for something like that. That doesn't mean that this specific coral is going to work in your specific space, because there are so many undertones and variations of colors that this is a starting point.
Right.
It's a jumping off point. And I think conceptually for this one more than anything, that's what it is.
Right. And the other thing with this color palette, this Color Trends 2023, and I don't know, maybe you completely disagree, but I see it less. In the past, I've seen these color trends as, I think I mentioned it in the original segment. You've got the main color, who's the star, and then you've got these supporting actors who really work well with that color, and they can, here's a nice accent color with this, or here's a nice. I don't know that I see that in this palette. I see a lot of colors who want to be the star. And I think they all could be the star.
Right.
This isn't something.
A lot of big personalities.
Right.
In one room.
You don't pull out this palette and think, okay, this is the trim color, here's the wall color.
Sure.
That I don't see this working that way. I see this
No.
more as, okay, I like this color and I'm going to run with that through the home. Maybe there's one that you could work with as a trim
There's
or an
a
accent.
couple, yeah, but overall, I think it's a much more difficult palette to find like a cohesive entire house scheme for everything.
Well, and I like that in a sense that in fact, that's one of the things I've not liked about when we put together color palettes and say, oh, here's the color you use on the base. How do you get to what we started with? What I started with was self-expression when I'm using somebody else's color palette,
Right.
curated color palette.
Yeah.
I'm just duplicating something that somebody else
Yeah,
chose.
you're duplicating. I think that's exactly what it is most of the time.
And I think with this color palette, there's not going to be a lot of duplicating.
No.
I think this is going to maybe be the incentive or a spark to jump out and try something.
Yeah.
I love the fact,
I think it's forcing you to find your color of the year.
okay, I like that. That's a great way to look at it. The other thing I like about it is they've had the guts to go out there and put not just one color that's
Right.
questionable. They put 6 or 7 colors out there that are really pushing some boundaries.
Yeah.
And we'll have to just see what we think as time goes by, because I didn't get to say this in the opening segment, the original part, but one of the things that I found in life is that if I love something right away, instantly fall in love with it. If it's a movie or if it's music or something like that.
Even people sometimes.
Okay.
I've had that experience. People that I like right away are not often people that I like over 10 years.
Okay, that's interesting, because when you first met me, I thought that seemed like it went pretty well. Curious when the bottom's going to drop out and I'm going to wear thin. Maybe I've already worn thin. Boy, that's hard to believe. No, but for me, with music, for example, I love that song. That song's great. A week later, I couldn't care less. And other music, specifically Bob Dylan, that's been somebody who's like coffee for your ears. It's like pouring hot coffee into your ears is listening to Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
it takes some time to get used to that. But once you do, I found the staying power of Dylan's music far outweighs some of this ear candy stuff that just sounds great right off the bat.
Yeah.
His stuff sticks with me.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's going to happen with this palette. If it's bold enough, if it's harsh enough that as time goes by, I'll soften towards it, that I'll find little pieces of value. And I think I will. I think I've already found pieces of value within there.
I think it gives us things to think about right off the bat. It's a thought-provoking color palette for sure.
I like that about it.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan, right off the bat. Not here to bang a drum and say, hey, it's Benjamin Moore. It's amazing. Let's do it. No, I don't like it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's self-expression. Find what you like. And if it's nothing to do with this color palette, more power to you. If it is this color palette,
I'd like to see.
I want to see it.
Yeah.
in application and practical outflow. All right. We'll see how it goes as the year unfolds.
I'm curious.
Do we have any more to say? I think that says it all.
Yeah, we've got 11 minutes, right?
All right.
Got to be getting there.
Yeah, we had to stop. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. No, we had time. We've got this thing going here. So I tricked Hailey. Well, my card literally says full, but I do have backup audio on the video. So I think we're just fine. We're going to wrap it up, though. Thanks for listening. If you are listening and you did come back to catch this extra chunk on the YouTube, make sure that you're subscribing if you haven't already.
Yes, absolutely.
Like the video, share it with your friends. We're trying to grow this YouTube channel and
Really
see what
appreciate
happens.
feedback.
Yeah. Thanks so much. See you next week.